I've been doing Filipino and Indonesian martial arts for 25 years. We focus a lot on weapons. So sticks and knives, gun disarms, flexible weapons, all the cool stuff you see in movies. Like if you've watched the new version of Dune, they're doing Filipino martial arts. You know what I mean? It's like all the cool stuff in the Bourne Identity, the very first one where he's fighting in the bathroom with the book. That's Filipino martial arts. So like that's the kind of stuff that I love to see and to choreograph, and that's the kind of stuff that I've written into this comic book as well.
Hey guys, welcome to Inside Comics with George Michail. Really quick, if you like this kind of content, make sure you're subscribed and tell a friend about it. Today I'm joined by Laurie Calcaterra. Thank you, Laurie, for being on the show.
Absolutely. Thank you for hosting me. I'm so happy to be here.
So you have a Kickstarter on right now. It's called Path of the Pale Rider, and you're launching this as a comic book, and there's going to be a short film. So today I'm hoping to talk to you about releasing your comic book in multiple forms of media. That's something that's a dream of a lot of comic book creators, and you're doing it. I'm wondering if you can tell us a little bit about your experience.
Okay, so let's start with the comic book. So let me back up even further. So we wrote the script. I wrote the script back in 2018, and when I wrote it, I was in production. So I was writing web series and short films and producing and choreographing fight scenes. So that's kind of like where I came from before I started writing comic books. And I had written a web series called The Agencies. I wrote a couple seasons of it. We filmed the pilot, but I had to relocate from Michigan to Texas, so it never went any further. I started writing this series actually as a full-length movie, and it was so big, the idea behind like breaking the death process and everybody being stuck on planet Earth together in this horrifying existence, it was too big for us to make, right? So then I was like, what do I do with it? My husband read the script and he was like, let's make it a comic book. We're comic book fans. We read a lot of Image and Dark Horse and Marvel and DC. So it's like, it just made sense. So, since the world is so big, I wrote this, like we could talk for hours about all the things that can happen in this world, that we decided we'd have the main story, obviously with the comic books. You're going to follow Jude St. Clair through the apocalypse while he tries to find the answer to the question why the dead don't die. But we're going to explore some of these other things that are happening that you won't see in the comic with the short films, and then additional content that you can actually find by solving riddles built into the comic books. So we actually filmed a short film for episode 1. If the Kickstarter is live, when this is live, you can go see it. We actually filmed a commercial for an undead retirement community called Pine Fox. So you can see this video of these like white picket fences where they're trying to like entice you to save your spot, so that way when you do pass and your body's decaying and you start to go insane, that you can go live there and kind of not be a threat to the living community. But interspliced with that video is like riots and fires and shootings, and it's like it's what's really going on. You know what I mean? So you have like the image that we want you to think like everything is happy and pleasant, but really it's violent and there's a lot of unrest. So episode 2, I'm actually going to open it up to the readers to participate in. We're going to pick a topic and everybody can submit like a 30-second clip to me, and I'm going to edit them together and make one cohesive short film. So you as the reader can participate. So when we go to Kickstarter for episode 2, you can see yourself in the short film, which I think is fun. It's a lot of fun, right? And then additionally, we're going to do more content just for the people that solve the riddles. So like the back cover of episode 1 is actually a riddle. And if you solve it, it takes you to a place in the real world. So actually episode 1, the riddle's not too hard. I've already had someone solve it. They already claimed for the number 1 spot. So looking for that handing out that silver medal to somebody for number 2. But after that, they're going to start progressively getting harder.
So this is really multimedia with games built into it, and with the short film and the comic book, and you're launching this all at the same time. And so you have a background of filmmaking and as a stunt person and all this sort of stuff too. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
About that? Well, I've been doing Filipino and Indonesian martial arts for 25 years. We focus a lot on weapons. So sticks and knives, gun disarms, flexible weapons, all the cool stuff you see in movies. Like if you've watched the new version of Dune, they're doing Filipino martial arts. You know what I mean? It's like all the cool stuff in the Bourne Identity, the very first one where he's fighting in the bathroom with the book. That's Filipino martial arts. So like that's the kind of stuff that I love to see and to choreograph. And that's the kind of stuff that I've written into this comic book as well. We got some really good fights. Some of them are like, we have a saloon brawl, but other ones like, there's one of my characters that's an excellent fighter. And I write some really technical fights that if you're a martial artist or you just enjoy action, these are going to be incredible.
Yeah. So can you tell us a bit more about this comic book? What exactly is it about? It's an
Yes.
apocalypse that happens, and is it set in the Wild West?
It's basically like if today the death process broke and 10 years into the future, things have devolved into the Wild West. So like government is gone. And I mean, like when you start reading the comic, and this is some of the feedback I've gotten, it's like at first you're like, oh, it's a spaghetti Western because you got a cowboy on a horse. But then you start looking at what's in the background or like what he's wearing, and you'll see like technology that doesn't exist or things that are modern that shouldn't be in the Wild West. So there's things that we kind of give you small clues leading up to what's actually happening in the Kickstarter preview. But in episode 1, we give you a pretty clear picture in the beginning what this world looks like. The 8-page Kickstarter preview is actually about 2/3 of the way into episode 1. So it's 24 pages and you're getting 8 pages like a little bit towards the end. And then there's something that happens after he has a confrontation with an undead bear. Yeah.
That's
so
cool.
yeah. So in the world, the death process is broken, like I've mentioned. So your body can die, but your soul doesn't leave your body when it dies. You're stuck inside of it while your body's decaying, and your brain is decaying. So my undead population is not a bunch of cannibalistic, brainless, autopilot brains kind of zombie. It's your mom, it's your sister, it's your brother, your neighbor. And then they die, and it's like they're having this very quick descent into madness, forgetfulness, violence, indifference. It's like having a brain injury or like a really serious injury or like a degenerative disease, because slowly you get worse and worse, and there's no escaping it. So it creates all sorts of problems. Like if animals don't pass away either, it's like what happens to the people that eat meat. I eat meat. Forget butchering a cow. We could probably butcher a chicken, but it's like, would the meat still move while you try to eat it? That's gross. I'm not eating a moving chicken nugget. No thanks. But it's like insects, it's the same thing. Insects don't die, or they're undead and they're stupid. So maybe they're still, don't realize that they're dead, and they're still doing the same things that they're good at, which is one of them is eating. So it's like now we have pesticide resistant insects. So now we have problems with crops. So it's like all the rule of like the death process being broken changes so much that happens, between the famine and overpopulation. And then when you think about all the ethical things and like in society, like if you die in our world, you can't own property. Obviously, you're dead. You can't drive a car, own a firearm, vote. But if you're still around and you're undead, what happens to all those rights? Do we take them away?
Yeah,
So
really interesting.
Yeah, so there's going to be riots and unrest, and I tackle all the big issues. I give you, what happens. I think episode 3 we have an extended flashback, so you get to see Jude before the apocalypse and like the fall and how crazy it really is and how confusing it is, because it's like you could be sleeping in bed, dying your sleep, and wake up Monday morning and go to work. It's like because maybe you don't realize you're undead, or it's like you've been smashed by a car, you're at the hospital, but you're still animated, and they're like, go home. It's like, what do we do with you? You're undead, but you're dead. Go home. So all like the craziness. Yeah, all the craziness that can happen. I take a really big spotlight and I point it at the human race and really show how ugly we can be to each other. So there's some pretty horrific things that happen. I kill just about everybody. So that's what you have to look forward to. I love zombie tropes. I love horror. If you look at our Kickstarter pages, we got zombie hands and zombie feet and people smashed by boulders and like undead animals, undead bears. Jude wakes up this undead bear by accident. And if you take a look, it's like you can see through his throat and his face is all mangled and stuff, and he's pissed off. So it's like, how do you get away from that? Good luck.
And so is the short film part of the Kickstarter? Like, can you get the short film as a reward?
The short film is free. So it's all built in. So there is no stretch goal for the short film. The short film is already there. So when you go to the Kickstarter page, we're raising money to finish the rest of the comic book. The short film is already done. Didn't I say we created a commercial for Pine Fox? And then the riddles they're free. There is no stretch goal for the riddles. It's something that comes along with every episode. So we're just throwing it in. I mean, it's just so much fun to me. That's kind of like how I want to experience a comic book, and I want to experience a story. I want to participate. I want to know all the background. I want to know all the things that are going on that maybe the protagonist can't show you because he's not in the right place. So
that's so cool. Can you tell me a little bit about the art team and who's and if you have any covers and things like that for this project?
Yes. Okay. So my main artist, his name was Marco DeFillo. He graduated from Kansas City Institute of Art in 2020. He's amazing. He and I met on social media. It was actually a Facebook group called Connecting Comic Book Writers to Artists. I had written the project. I had some other artists that were involved and had to drop out because 2020 was a jerk, obviously, to everybody. So he and I talked through the project. He was really excited about the story, and it just worked out. And if you look at these pages, they're so amazing. Like, he's so good at telling the story. He fleshed out Jude. He did like the character bios and sent them to me, and it just took my breath away. My husband's a big comic book fan as well, and when he saw Marco's rendition of Jude, he was like, "That's it. That's Jude." That's how I picture him in my head. I do have some variant covers as well. I have 3 variant covers. I have 2 artists. The 2 artists that were involved prior to Marco both did a cover. So I have Jose Martinez did a cover of the Undead Bear that we lovingly call Big James. David Rodriguez did a cover where it has like the disc, the technology from our world. It's like shattered and there's like a horde of zombies in the background. It cracks me up though, because it kind of gives the wrong impression that they're still like the flesh-eating zombies. But then like it could be them just like coming to say hello and they just look ugly. It's like maybe they were just walking somewhere. I don't know. They just look all gross because they're decayed. But they're not coming to eat your brains. Maybe they're trying to get you to vote for something. I don't know. And then I have a cover from another buddy of mine who's a comic creator named Everett Watkins, and he did a cover of like Jude in the sunset with this smoking gun. It's very like the good, the bad, and the ugly Clint Eastwood kind of vibe, which I dig. So you could check out Everett's comic too. It's called Boog the Outcast. So lots of good stuff.
So I've shared a link to the Kickstarter for Path of the Pale Rider in the description of this video. So everyone out there, go and click that link. Go and check out this Kickstarter. Go and back this Kickstarter. And Laurie
Calcaterra, it's good.
Thank you for being on Inside Comics. Awesome. See you next time.
Oh, I'm so glad to be here. Thank you.